recording.
Here we go.
Before, Newman.
All right, welcome to the Friday Gimbal Labs token PBL for C4C. Today's agenda is jam-packed with exciting things. Let me share my screen and get the agenda up. So we just did our check-ins and now we're looking at the agenda. We're going to review the previous meeting here in a second. We're going to talk about Fund8 Hub Operations distribution proposal that I've been working on this week, just to get people's feedback on that. And then a proposal to kick off our first official sprint over the next 2 weeks. And we'll go over that. We've been talking about sprints and sprint lengths and how they might work over the last couple of sessions. So it feels like it's a good time with the new moon starting soon to kick that off. And then just want to touch base on the website. And then we have an IOG closeout report and monthly reporting due on the 24th. So we should probably talk about that today. Is there anything else that people want to put on the agenda?
So for sprints, for stories, we can add them. Like I see user stories in there. We could add ideas for sprints, or have you got those already figured out?
We don't. So we can talk about that when we get to that section.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything else people want to add or questions about the agenda? If not, we can jump.
Sorry,
around.
when is the new moon?
Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is the beginning of something new, which is awesome.
Yeah, we were trying to time it that way. That's why last week we didn't kick things off because it was still
Well, it's amazing though, because I see the moon getting skinnier when I can see it, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm behind on what I wanted to do, but it's like I'm not in that routine yet, and it's like, wow, what a great visual, as you go to sleep at night and the last thing you see is the size of the moon. And it's like, so the C and the D, what do they mean, Nori?
DOC is the acronym. The D is waxing moon. O is, of course, the full moon. And the C is the waning moon. So if you look up and it looks like a C, it's a waning crescent. If it looks like a D, it's the waxing crescent. So that's just a handy way of knowing, because
right. And then because it's coming, the moon is coming to a close when you see the C, that the month is coming to a close. Yeah. Okay, good. And then maybe the full moon is open. It's all open. And then,
and we'll go into that in a little bit of detail when we talk about the sprint. All right, sounds like there's no other agenda items. So let's jump into reviewing last week's. Oh, wow, you can do previews inside of here. That's kind of cool.
Ooh.
That's new. Ooh. So what did we do last week?
There's some things like the Dework. Yeah.
Let me just go through the minutes, I guess. We talked about lunar cycles. We talked about
Fund8, that thing that's not done yet.
And then the Fund8. Okay, are you still working on the Fund7?
Well, I put it on hold this week.
Okay.
It's going to be, sorry, life.
Yeah.
I'm in survival mode.
Yeah, totally understand. We talked about the Cardano Summit stuff. And then the lunar cycle and sprints. Some time management stuff. Yeah, we did a lot of talking about sprints and sprint planning and probing and stuff like that. All right. Is there anything from last week that anybody wants to update on?
So just going forward, some of the stuff got missed, like the Dework, tasks and figuring that out. That's just going to become part of our user stories, right?
Yeah.
All these kind of loose ends we can pick up and start weaving together into these stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we'll have is a bunch of user stories, and then we can use our different meetings to prioritize that backlog.
They're kind of like little pieces of paper.
Exactly. And then we can sort them. And then the ones on top are most important. So if someone's looking for something to do, they can go, oh, this one, it's near the top. I can take that. And it'll be a good way.
This is having that outline helped me get the roof on before the rain, because it would have been like all these other things getting in the way. And, it really did help me prioritize. So good timing on that, really, literally.
It's great to see that it was useful in real life too.
Whew. In a very practical way.
Okay. So we'll go to the C4C Hub Operations distribution proposal. Let me see if I can find it. I should have put a link to it.
Good morning, Nori. I like that. That was a beautiful picture.
Oh yeah, if you haven't used Momentum dashboard yet, it's a beautiful little Brave Chrome plugin where when you do this, you can type in my main focus today is to be awesome. So anytime you open a new tab, it'll remind you of your focus. You can drop notes in. You can make a quick to-do list. You can have handy links. There's all sorts of stuff you can do, and it's really a quick, handy productivity tool if you're in a browser. Yeah.
Love it. Flow, focus, flow, and something else. I'm reading the Unicorn Project. Anyways, focus and flow.
Focus and flow, yes. So I was looking at how to do hub operations contribution, and I started looking at the roles, and there's like every week we have like some primary roles that we need to fill for every one of the meetings we do. So I just kind of threw it up here and put core roles. I mapped it to say a sprint. And then we have like the Monday team meeting, facilitator, scribe, admin, the Tuesday team meeting, facilitator, scribe, admin, Wednesday meetup, facilitator, scribe, admin. Oh, wait, let me jump here. This one's more.
Can you add recording?
That's admin.
Because admin to me is like setting up the agenda. And recording.
It's the recording. It's anything outside the meeting.
Okay.
Activity that happens, and it could be more than one person that does the admin. But that's kind of the description. Facilitator, scribe are the meeting people, and then the admins before and after.
Because it would be kind of nice to have a setup admin and a completion admin. That could be two different people, because it's definitely been split up in the past.
Yeah, I combined it here just to make it simple.
Yeah.
If we need to split it, we can, but I'd love to just see if we can do it and have people say, I'll do admin.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and then and then if you're finding it hard to do before and after, then we could split the two. Or if two people do it, we can both give them credit for doing it.
Okay.
But basically I went through there and did that for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then basically this model is working on the concept of shares, and whenever you take a role you get one share, and then the core team meeting, if you show up at a meeting you get one share because you're working and doing stuff. So in this case Yoram did a Wednesday meeting breakout host twice over the sprint. He was a Wednesday meeting admin. Oops, 3's too many, twice. And then he attended 5 of our working team meetings this sprint. And then I have a line here just for additional sprint contribution, and generally in hours for hub operations. So these are, I don't know what would go here, but anything that's not a meeting facilitator, scribe admin. So if you worked on this,
Timestamping,
yeah, any of that kind of
Dework setup.
yeah, we can
all sorts
say if that took an hour, we'll give you 1 share. If that took you 5 hours, you can have 5 shares. Just to kind of track that. And then the spreadsheet basically counts up each person's shares. This line adds up the total number of shares. Looking back at our Fund8 proposal budget and the time span, it was 9 sprints of length-ish before Fund9 started. So dividing that out, that's about 2,500 ADA per sprint. So if you divide that into shares, you basically get 39 ADA per share of effort. And then if you add up and divide, this would be like an example that for those 2 weeks, people get however many ADA shares based on their effort.
So one thing, just initially looking at it, I see, for example, Yoram, 10 shares. He does so much outside work.
This is only for hub operations. So it's for whatever is necessary to keep C4C operational week to week. We have other proposals for that other work. If it's not the hub operations, it's not about networking. It's not about impact onboarding, running events, community collaboration stuff. It's really about running these meetings and making sure that C4C works.
Okay, so because for me, hub operations is it all. It's, managing the Discord, Telegram, that kind of stuff, but that's not part of the proposal.
No, we can split those out and look at the next ones. Like we have impact onboarding with about the same amount of data in it. And that can be some of that marketing and the Discord community management.
Yeah, because that's, unless that's all lumped into the admin, right? Because I'm looking at what's happened for the last year, and that admin seems to be a pretty big, managing the Telegram, notifying people, meet up, all sorts of stuff. So that one feels a little bit light for the past.
Yeah, so we have the events budget, and that's where like meetups and things like that will go in. Running the actual events themselves will be out of the events budget. I really wanted to just focus on
I'm just trying
so
to
that we get a pattern in place.
I think first of all, well done, Nori. I think it's really a great way to put it in a simple and clear information, and around that we can fine tune. For example, we can say, hey, someone have to write a proposal, someone have to write the closing report, write all of these things that are not necessarily specific to a sprint, maybe. Yeah. But definitely that could be a huge base, and around that we can fine tune. So I think it's great. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, and that's
and simple and clear. Sorry.
Row 16 is for that fine tuning. So if you have that additional sprint contribution, we can say, it felt like I did this week or this sprint. It would be to get right.
Yeah, because someone have to write a proposal. That's one, right? Then we have to write the final report and all things around that. And that, yeah.
Can you add that in a comment, like in this cell? Could you add a comment to it? Just for updating, something like that. But say, for example, Yoram comes along and does the report in this particular sprint. He could put a comment in there, or does he go ahead and change it?
We can. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, this is just the accounting part of it. This isn't how we're going to track the tasks and everything that everybody does. That's the next section in the agenda today.
And then also
I
sharing.
didn't understand the separation between them, Nori, because this is the kind of the participation, right?
This is really the core team stuff, running the Monday, Tuesday, Friday meetings and attending those, and then helping with the Wednesday meetings as well, the community meeting.
And you said something about a schedule at one point so that we can share the load of facilitation.
Yes, that's coming up next.
Okay, awesome. Nori, you've got it all. I don't know why everything I ask, it's like, oh, I should shut up and wait.
It's coming. So yeah, does this sound like a workable kind of schema to start with? And then we can tweak it over time and add stuff that may seem missing, and maybe adapt this to events, impact onboarding, and community collaboration standards.
So the big innovations here are the 2-week sprint cycle, and the share model. Those seem to be the big changes.
Yeah, and I also put a column here for the treasury guys. So I'm saying if they had an additional sprint contribution of 1 and they spent 5 hours doing payouts and working with the community to get the treasury stuff going, we should reward them for that work. So they're part of this. And rather than give them a fixed $1,000 a month, I would love to do it on a share model based on.
And they'd be okay with that, right? You have to just confirm that they would do that.
Yeah.
And it seems like the right thing to do, because
Yeah.
a fixed amount is a little bit scary to me.
I was thinking the same, like, when I seen that, I was like, the fixed amount, I won't do that, but this kind of solves it easier, like.
Yeah, and it'll track people who some weeks or some months they need to pull back and take care of personal stuff, and then they come roaring back the next month, and it'll account for that and adjust. And this is just a sample. This isn't an actual kind of record of anything. I was just filling numbers. But you can see if you start adding numbers in, if we use a spreadsheet model, the numbers will change.
Automatically do it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The only challenge I can see with that is if, let's say, in a meeting there is 10, 15 people, we are a little bit, so the meeting kind of, you get 15 points, but the person that prepared the meeting and led the meeting, it's become less proportional, although he's doing much more work than everyone else, right? So let's say Newman, is preparing the meeting and presenting it and leading that. So you get 1 point, but there's 15 people in the call. It's become less important, right? And
It thins out the resources.
Yes.
And it almost feels competitive, right? Because then it's like you have this fixed amount and you have to chop it up into little pieces.
It's more like, this is our bounty, or this is in a hunter-gatherer model. We got this animal, now we're gonna give it out because that's what we have this week. But we're not including the Wednesday meetings as shares. So showing up at Wednesday is kind of a Gimbal thing, a community participation. These are, that's why 15 says core team meetings. It's anytime we have, the core team tends to be 5, 4, 6 people. It doesn't really grow much beyond that, but it's the people that are doing the actual work of C4C to keep the community going. And I think that participation is good.
So sorry, finish, Nori.
Oh, and then just the facilitation, scribing, and admin are just recognized as, if those are additional shares and you attend the meeting, you'll get 4 total shares per meeting if you did all of it, for example. And if 4 people shows up, you're kind of getting half of that credit for doing all that work. I was thinking about it, and it felt kind of reasonable.
So this is you've just put in numbers right now just to play with it, right?
Yeah.
So what we can actually do is go back and look at the real facts, right? The real numbers. And that's the idea, to go through with it. So as long as this formula kind of works, then we go back and see what it really is. I love the fact that we pay after the fact. People have done work. There's that end of it to get rewarded and remunerated for that. But there's also the incentive going forward to, this is what you get for doing this.
Yeah, so that's the initial proposal. If you guys are good, then I can start to flesh it out. In fact, if someone's interested,
I'll help you flesh it out, because some of this work's already been done.
Yeah.
Through accounting. I'm going through the chats when I have time. Definitely help you flesh it out.
Okay, so this is probably a good segue into the sprint itself. So last week went over this kind of lunar sprint cycle, and we're kind of here right now on the waning crescent, and we're going into the new moon. So next week will be sprint 1, start of new things, the waxing crescent, and we'll kick things off with sprint planning. But I kind of started looking at it like this specifically for C4C. If you want to take a look, let me drop the link into chat.
Thank you.
And this is also something on the agenda. There's a point that says link to the part on the Miro board. That's helpful to have to that frame.
It's on the agenda. Or
okay, good.
So basically, what I'm proposing is Monday we start sprint planning instead of our usual event planning, and call it sprint planning. So we kind of kick off the sprint, talk about what we're going to do. And then I've mapped out all of our meetings and all the different core roles that map to that sheet that I just showed you. And this is getting to your question earlier, Melanie, to say on sprint planning day on Mondays, we all come in and say, I'm happy to facilitate that one. Who wants to be described? And then we just add our names as tags on these stickies, and then map it out. And then we'll know for the sprint who's going to be doing what role for which meeting. And we're just asking people to commit for a 2-week period to decide, look at their calendars and say, this is what I can do, and that's what feels right.
So sorry to interrupt. So rather than the event planning day on Monday, event planning is actually going to be a sprint. It's going to be part of sprints, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Although Tuesdays we do what's called story gathering, where we think about what our stories are. So we have a fleshed out backlog. And then we also do our meetup planning for Wednesday, because that's kind of what we do on Tuesdays too. Wednesday's community meetup. Thursday is focus day, no team meetings, but there could be individual meetings. And then Fridays are C4C GTPBL. And then week 2, on Monday, we have what Agile calls a working session. And it's really for us to think about what are our stories, what needs to be pushed forward, what can we do together. It's a face-to-face opportunity to work rather than async. And then Tuesday, again, is story gathering, and Wednesday meetup planning, and then we have our meetup. Nothing on Thursday. And then Friday, instead of C4C GTPBL, we do a demo day and a reflection on the sprint.
Which is what you're doing right now in a way, right?
Yes,
again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do it again, and we do sprint 2, doing the same pattern. The only difference is that the community meetup on that Wednesday is way of council, because that's kind of the waning crescent, time for reflection, bring the community together, talk about it, and then we do our final demo day and reflection on that Friday.
So what about the main events, like the monthly events? You know, they're on hold right now, October and November.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. But those normally happen on Thursday, so we can drop the events in on Thursday.
So that would be a great schedule, because then we see it coming the 3rd week of every month. This is our big event, and we've got the focus. Nori, absolutely amazing. Where have you been all my life? This is my question.
And the one other thing I wanted to drop in is for sprint 1, we should have goals. Like this one should be something like finalize Fund 7 and 8 accounting is kind of a goal for those 2 weeks, or plan summit or whatever. And then we'll have a goal, and that's kind of what shapes the activities and tasks that we do as a community. And then we can just have that as our guiding goal for that sprint. And every 2 weeks we can change them up. And then this is basically just kind of a board that you can look at to remind yourself what are the goals and who's doing what for the upcoming meetings. So we basically fill these out on the Monday sprint planning meetings on the first week of every sprint.
Nori, you take chaos and organize it and simplify it and do some sort of magic here. Absolutely amazing. I know we're supposed to save that to the end of the meeting, but I'm tearing up actually just thinking about how simple you're making things and then bringing some focus to this. So I just want to say big heartfelt thank you for this.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, Nori, really incredible. One suggestion to consider is in the end of the 2 weeks, we can say what if we achieve the goal or not, right? Because we set a big goal. So we'll just
yeah, and that should be a definite part of the reflection meeting is to say, here are our goals. How did we do? What did we accomplish? How can we do it better next time?
Perfect.
And then maybe some of the bigger goals actually need to be chunked up when we realize that this one big goal was just too much for 2 weeks. We're carrying it forward. So then maybe we have to, more than the 5 tasks or whatever, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And the other thing for demo day, getting into the habit of demoing. Newman called it show and tell the other. That works for North Americans. I don't know if the Europeans have that. So,
they didn't get it. They were like, no, we don't
it's
know.
basically thinking. Yeah, at the end of the sprint, you should be ready to kind of show what you've done. So have some kind of tangible things. It could be sharing a screen and showing all the stuff you did or just talking about it, but there should be some kind of a demo to kind of celebrate what we've accomplished through the week.
I see Ryan's here. Hey. Hey, Ryan.
Ryan.
He came in with some noise. He's probably in a cafe again.
All right. Any feedback on that or comments, questions?
It's a bit daunting to learn a new system. However, I think it will be worth it because it allows for collaboration in different groups. This model of Agile, Scrum, Kanban is something that, a bunch of different groups use. So going out to look, it's like it's a valuable marketplace skill.
Mm-hmm.
Record keeping. That's the one nemesis. It seems to be like, okay, we've got this Miro board. Is this where all the information is held? How do we do that? How do we platforms?
Yeah, this one is more of a coordination board. It's not meant to last very long. It's really Dework where we'll be tracking the actual stories and stuff. And
okay, so that's the stories, but say there's documents written, there's pieces of work that we're working on. Does that get determined by the team then? And that's going to be all clarified at the demo day and the reflection, like, okay, this is the report we did. This is where it lives in our records. This is how we find it. Okay, that's great because, it brings everybody together, all our work together in one place.
Yeah.
And then we go out and do it.
Mm-hmm. And the Dework tasks have a place where you can click a button that says submit work and you put links to the documents and whatever it is that was created if there are artifacts. And it's a nice way of collecting all those together. But we also have an upcoming documentation project and things. So we can work on how we want to collect all that and how we want to display everything. That's probably a good segue.
Into a user story too. Oh, into the website as well.
Website. So yeah, we're talking about doing the website as kind of our initial collaboration hub because we're using WordPress. We can do blogs, we can write documents, we can write articles, we can
add wallets to it. Cardano Press wallet. Isn't that the way you can do it? Yeah.
Yeah, Cardano Press is already installed. So now we can open up access to certain parts of the website based on, like, if you have gimbals in your wallet, now you're able to enter this section or things like that are very easy to do.
And also access tokens, working towards that. If you're admin, you have an access token. Yeah, fabulous. The future looks good.
Future's coming. It's a little bumpy, but yeah, exciting.
Yeah. So user stories, where would we collect those? Like we have ideas. I think a user story is I would like to see ... right?
Yeah. Wonder if we can pull something up from Littlefish. We talked about that last week in Littlefish. A user story has a couple of components. It usually starts with as a, and then some person or stakeholder, like as a C4C community member. And then you write, I would love to be able to have a link tree that is easy to navigate to all the meetings that I want to go to this week so that I can feel engaged and show up. So there's always a, as a somebody, something, and then so that, and then you have, and that's kind of the user story statement. And then you have some conditions of satisfaction under that, which are, we need a link tree, it should be documented, it should be placed in the website at this location. And now anybody can come in and take it. And the goal of the user story is to have the why. And that's the first part. Why are we doing this story? And then the what is the conditions of satisfaction. And we don't specify the how. We leave it up to the person taking the story to be creative and deliver it in whatever way they think is best. So the why and what are in the user story. The how is really autonomously up to the person taking that story to deliver them.
And thanks for repeating that, because it'll take me a little while to shift, and do that. Again, sometimes it's hard to find that information. Where was it? Oh, it's easier to ask, right? So
For
thank you
sure.
for repeating.
And one best practice is at your Monday sprint planning, you shouldn't do story gathering. So there should be a fully built out backlog for that. We don't really have one yet because we're just getting kicked off. So I'm willing to spend some time this weekend to start throwing a few stories up based on some of the stuff. I was thinking we have Cardano Summit organization. So we have some stories around that. We have Fund8 plans. We should get those complete and shared so that we agree to it. And then by the end of the sprint, I would love to pay people for Fund7 and some of Fund8 as kind of a high level goal. So what are the tasks we need or user stories to get that done? And that'll help us focus as a community on those things. But I'm happy to start looking into and creating some of those stories. And if anybody else wants to help it, just let me know.
I'm happy to work with you on that this weekend. For me, the story is the future, right? So the future story. So that's what I think about, like C4C Foundation, or what next. I mean, with
And
all of that,
where will this information be? Is it like the stories that we're starting to collect and look at?
We'll start putting them into Dework, and it has a natural kind of to-do column, and then we can sort those based on the priority of what we think is important.
I'm not really, like, Dework kind of scares me, to be honest. I've been hesitant to get into it. I know I'm heading that way. Winter's coming and more time on the computer. I will learn it and I will do it. Is there a kind of go-between, or just?
Some people, just so that they're not futzing with the UI and struggling, you could put them into a spreadsheet or a Google Doc, and just, as long as you have the text there, then it's easy to cut and paste into.
But I tell you what my challenge, that I mean, Nori, it's not the Dework or so on. It's just there's so many different platforms, right? So it's not one, again, each platform is wonderful, but to jump between the platform, I mean, it's such a pain, right? For me, at least. And so I don't know how to But I understand that each one have its use case and need, but yeah.
What would you feel comfortable with, Yoram?
No, I think it's wonderful that all this new platform, but I mean, I think we need to choose few platforms, that this is our key platform for communication, and just focus on them for now. I mean, and decide which one they are. I don't know. Decide 3 platforms, okay, and just focus on them. And because otherwise, every time for me it's just a hassle, because this is not my work. My work is connect people, contact people, right? That's my work. It's not to work on the platforms.
It sounds like a user story to me.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
user story.
Simplified.
Good point, Melanie.
And it's interesting.
To turn it into a user story though, how would we do that? Like Yoram's got this frustration with too many platforms. How do we turn this into a user story?
You could say, as Yoram, I'm frustrated that we have so many different platforms. It would be nice to pick 3 so that I can focus on being productive in the way that's most joyful to me, or whatever that story is. You can write it in that format.
And so the
Yeah.
conditions of satisfaction for him would be 3 platforms.
But this is not the story that disturbed my mind today. So the story that disturbed my mind is the foundation. So, and I need to have time for that.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I just read it. I mean, I mean, I'm just trying to minimize my time on that, and maybe that create me more efficient on that, because if I need to think now on all the miro boards that we opened, where do I find all of them, right? I mean, it sounds crazy, but because there's so much in so many different locations, it's kind of, some of them are getting lost, right, in translation. But again, it's not make a guy to arrange all of that. So
I have started a record of records with the
Okay.
links to stuff, and that would probably be, practical to have in a spreadsheet, just as a source of information, easy access to links. That's going to be a sprint for me for the winter.
that would be amazing sprint, because even the other day we were working on the final report for Fund8, and I asked
Mhm.
Newman, hey, well, I didn't find all the
Mhm.
one, and I asked Newman, and he had to look for them, right, as well, for all the miro
Yeah,
boards.
the record of records.
Yeah,
So it is.
and we said to put it in a
is
website
begun.
also, but yeah.
Yeah, it is begun, and to take off a little pressure of having it done, it will be done coming this winter for sure.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you for loving the record of record. Good to have you here, sir. Always good to have you. Yeah.
For sure. I think it's an important pain point to sort of highlight. I think that it's something that happens quite a bit, the expansion into all the different tools and sort of spreading everything out. And then I would love to respect and embrace that idea of trying to bring it all back and try to figure out what is the best, and sort of cut out to harvest and say, okay, no more of this, and then really let it focus our attention on what it is that we do, what our purpose is, how those tools support us, and then figuring out the best way, in the most minimal way possible, to allow the most efficient collaboration.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is definitely a story, but I'm happy to work with you on a few key stories, Nori. And then we can even do a quick vote on the stories if we want, right? Which story we want to, or you need a leader for a story, right?
Right. Who picks
the story, yeah.
from the backlog? I guess how does that work, Noy?
So the way sprint planning will usually work is on Monday. That's why I put my name up as facilitator, so I can help with this. We start with picking the goals. So what are the goals that we want to achieve over the next 2 weeks? And we should limit it to 3. So pick the 3 most important. And it doesn't mean we can't do other things, but these are the kind of the focus that we're going to reflect on at the end of the 2 weeks to see how successful we were. And then based on those goals, we will prioritize what are the tasks that we think will be needed to make those goals happen. And hopefully we've done enough story gathering that we don't have to create stories during sprint planning. We just reorder stuff. And then usually you can kick off the sprint with each person there committing to what roles they can play for the core team meetings on this big chart. What's the one story, if they're going to do a story that they want to start with? And then we make sure that the backlog is prioritized so that when people finish their first story, they can go look at the backlog and see what's at the top. And if it's compelling or in their ikigai, they can take it, or if it's the second one down or the third one down. But trying to pick stuff from the top that matches what brings you joy is a great way to just make it easy for people to be able to autonomously take tasks and work on them through the sprint.
Can the goals be shifted to the following sprint?
They
Is
can
it-
be.
So if you've got, you know, like four goals, but you're only going to focus on 3,
Mhm.
the fourth one, it's okay to write that into one of the goals for the second half. Is that
Yeah.
the idea?
Yeah, and then that's a great way of just prioritizing. But the next sprint, something emergent may happen, and it'll
Could
drop.
happen, that's it. But as long as it, you know, it's still on the board and it's not getting lost. And now each one of these boards is for one sprint team, or these, that's the other thing. Do we copy and paste each one of these for a sprint team?
Really, you should do it per sprint team, but I was reflecting on C4C, and we're small enough and the same people show up to our core meetings mostly at the same. So I was thinking we could start with just one sprint board and see how that goes. And if it gets too chaotic or the meetings run too long because we're doing too much, then we could.
Well, then there'll be focus groups that take off and go, okay, I want to, you know, focus on this record of records, and they can copy and paste and do their own sprint
Mhm.
and still be part of the bigger one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
How does it fit in with I really like the idea of the proposal, even though we may be getting away from proposals, as a way to sort of organize the, you know, it's just as an organizing unit. So how would that sort of fit in?
I think that works well. And we're closing out everything but 2, I think, proposals now. So that would give us 2 proposal groups or colonies or whatever you want to call them to work on these things. It would basically be impact or onboarding and community collaboration standards. Because our goal is to close out events and hubs for Fund 7 and 8 by the end of this lunar cycle that's coming up. So my suggestion is we focus on closing out all of Fund 7 and half of the Fund 8 stuff this next sprint, so we can get that paid out, and then kind of focus on the next 2 plus whatever else we want to do that's important, like the Cardano Summit as our event. And but yeah, our Dework is organized that way right now. It's kind of split up into the different proposal groups.
I see them connected too, though, like the closeout being tidying up all the loose ends that we've had, but also this showcases what we've done for the summit. You know, the record of records, the videos, little clips, any of this stuff, having that in one place to access makes it really easy to go, okay, what do we need? And how do we throw this together? What does Dr. M want, you know, this weekend? Oh, here it is. Here you are, you know, instead of this, yeah, instead of what has been.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how does that feel for everybody? Safe enough to try?
The Dework is scaring me, but you're
If
gonna
you
just
want, we can do something similar to Littlefish and have a tech help collective kind of group that runs like either one-on-one or small group sessions to say,
Mhm.
here's kind of the basics. Because Dework has a lot there, but it's really two,
Okay, few features.
yeah, there's just a
It's
couple.
not that complicated after you get used to it, but yeah, but it took me
So
some time to
Yoram,
get used to it.
you're working with it right now?
I'm working, not happily, but I'm working. Started to get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is that you don't want it to be a block, right? And right now it
Yeah.
feels like a block for me,
Mhm.
Yeah.
for one reason or another, but that'll get cleared away soon enough. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of things to do there, at least what I'm using. So for the core stuff, so it's quite simple. But it's intimidating. I was also felt a little bit intimidated from using it.
new moon coming,
Yeah,
new learning. Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, I will stretch myself some more.
And I'm,
But we need to block Nori's Amazon credit that they cannot buy any more books of new systems for the next 2 months. 2 or 3
Yeah.
months.
That would be like trying to put water in a cardboard box there, Yoram. So you can just forget that goal.
It reminds me of that old joke. How do you stop a rhino from charging? How do you stop a rhino from charging? You take away his credit cards. Oh man.
That's a bad one. That's a groaner.
it's a groaner. Maybe a good place to end our recording and say goodbye to you.
There we go. Bye bye YouTube. I will
Bye.
leave you with that lovely. We'll leave you with that lovely joke.